Hi, this is Kathy with Barefoot Mountain School of Herbs, and in this video, we're going to go over how to identify and process and make cranesbill into herbal medicine. The information presented in this video is intended for educational purposes only and is not meant to give any medical advice, diagnose, treat, or cure any disease. Please do your own research and prayerfully make your own decisions regarding your use of herbal medicines. Now, cranesbill, or Geranium maculatum, is also known as wild geranium or crow's foot. It comes up in the early spring, so we're able to get an early spring harvest of this. It grows in woodlands and wetlands, and the roots of the plant are the part that we use. Now, cranesbill root is very high in tannins, and what tannins do is they're very astringent, so they're very drying. We can use them for urinary tract infections. They're also antimicrobial, but they will dry up any exudate or drainage or anything like that. Heavy menstrual periods, they will slow those down. Bleeding hemorrhoids, wounds with a heavy exudate or drainage. These are the kinds of things that we can use the cranesbill for. But cranesbill, when it's processed correctly, is also high in gallic acid. And gallic acid is very soothing and healing. It has anti-tumor effects, so it's good for bowel cancers. It's also very anti-inflammatory, so inflammatory bowel diseases like Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis, irritable bowel disease, and that sort of thing it's great for. Cranesbill is also part of what I like to call the dynamic duo of berberine and cranesbill. Now, as you know, berberine are the plants like golden seal, barberry, Oregon grapefruit, so any of those that have the yellow, the berberine in them, mixed with cranesbill, but actually not mixed with, but alternated with cranesbill, are just wonderful as an antimicrobial. In lab studies, it killed 100% of cholera, which is very difficult to get rid of. So the two together in lab studies killed 100% of the cholera bacteria. It's great for stomach viruses. Not even as a dynamic duo, just by itself, cranesbill, if we're exposed to a stomach virus, the first thing we do is take cranesbill just to let those tannins go ahead and clobber that virus before it even gets started. Diverticulitis, I've had people who have taken the berberine and alternated with cranesbill and were able to not have to go to the ER like they usually did with the diverticulitis. So it's great for those sorts of things. I use cranesbill by itself for anything. That's my go-to for anything to do with stomach viruses, gallbladder, any kind of stomach pain for that matter. If it's really bad, I'll alternate it with berberine, but cranesbill is just my go-to for any kind of stomach upset. Okay, so now we're going to talk about how to identify cranesbill. And the very first thing that you need to know is not this geranium. Now, this is a geranium from like a flower store or in the Walmart garden center. This is not the geranium that we're talking about. This is called a pelargonium. It is not a geranium maculatum. It's not a geranium at all. It is in the genus Pelargonium, and it is mildly poisonous. So you want to stay away from this one. I think that there are some medicinal purposes for it, but that is not what we're talking about in this video. Okay, the geranium that we are talking about is Geranium maculatum, and they come up in the early spring. You want to look for them in wooded areas or wet areas. Sometimes you can find them even in the sunshine, but for the most part, they're in the wooded and wet areas. The leaves are palmate, meaning they're kind of shaped like a hand. You see the fingers going out from it. They have 3 to 7 lobes, and they're deeply cut in between them. And a lot of times you'll see this little white area in the middle and that can kind of tip you off sometimes that you found geranium. And as you can see from the side, the leaves and the stem are just a little bit fuzzy. Now the flowers range in color from white, which is pretty rare, to light pink and sometimes a darker pink and even sometimes a purple. But most of the time they're a light pink or a light pinky purple color. The flowers are about 1.5 to 2 inches across. They have 5 rounded petals and they have 10 stamens with yellow tips. Now this is a close-up of one of the flowers, and you can see one of the identifying features of the flowers are the visible darker veins on the petals. You can see the little veins in the petals that look like little stripes along the petals. Now we're going to talk about how to process cranesbill into herbal medicine. Okay, so once you have found some cranesbill, you need to understand that the timing of the harvest is very important when collecting cranesbill roots. As I mentioned earlier, we normally collect roots in the fall, but according to some tests that have been done on this, the cranesbill roots lose a whole lot of their constituents by October. It is best collected just before the plant blooms. And the way that I do this is go out and find some that maybe has 1 or 2 flowers on it, and then find a plant nearby that is getting ready to bloom. Now I'll show you this study. This is from Henrietta's Herb. She is a Finnish herbalist. Her name is Henrietta Kress, and she has a wonderful herb site. If you all want to go there, there's just so much information on there, and she includes a whole lot of like journals from the 1920s and the 1910s when they used to do a whole lot of tests on herbs because that was their main medication at that time. But this was a study done by Professor Trimble and Mr. J.C. Peacock. It was published in the American Journal of Pharmacology in 1891. And they collected the roots over a period of 2 years and tested them, and that they found out that the root collected in January had 11.72% tannin, but the one collected in spring just before bloom had 27.85% tannins, and then that falls again back down to 9.72 in October. And of course we need as many tannins as we can get, and a lot of these will be converted to gallic acid, but we need as as strong of an herb as we can get. So as I said, we want to try to harvest some plants that haven't bloomed yet. Usually you can see even in this picture where it's got the little buds on it, you can see in the background there's a whole lot more plants around. So those are the ones, I would get a clump of those that haven't bloomed yet but look like they're just getting ready to. You dig up the roots and the rhizomes. This is a very easy plant to harvest. The roots are not very deep. They're not very stubborn. I guess it's probably because the ground is a little bit wet, but they're not very hard to get up. They're kind of shallow. They're little knotty roots. You bring them up and they're soft, so they're not hard to process. So we'll go over the processing here. This is what your root will look like when you get it dug up and cleaned up. It's just a little reddish color root with little knots on it. So you want to chop your root into tiny pieces. You can even grate it on like a cheese grater. It's very soft. It's not hard at all to chop into pieces. You can chop the whole root up. You don't have to discard the hard inner heartwood or anything. The whole root will chop up pretty easily. I did mine with just a knife, and some scissors. Now, in order to get the gallic acid from the herb, you have to dry the chopped root. There was some studies done. It's on Henrietta Krebs' website, henriettasherb.com. No gallic acid is present in the fresh root, nor in the decoction made therefrom. Only after the rhizome is dried is the gallic acid present, due to the decomposition of the tannin. So in order to get the gallic acid, you have to dry the root so that the tannins can go ahead and break down and convert to gallic acid. Now, there might be some situations where you want all your tannic acid. You don't want gallic acid, like especially if you're using it for to prevent viruses, stomach viruses, and that sort of thing. You might want all those tannic acids in there, so you might just go ahead and tincture it fresh. And that's probably what I'm going to do this year is tincture some fresh and tincture some dried because those tannic acids will clobber those stomach viruses. So it's good to have some of that too. But if you want the soothing gallic acid for, an active stomach virus or a gallbladder or some kind of inflammation in your stomach, then you definitely want to dry it before you tincture it. Okay, so after you've gotten your root dried and you want to go ahead and do a professional tincture, you want to do it in a 1:5 ratio in 50% pure grain alcohol. Now, if you don't understand what that means, you can go and watch a video that I have on my channel called How to Make an Herbal Tincture, and it'll tell you how to do that. But you can also do a folk tincture. You just put your dried root in a jar and cover it with enough vodka to about 1/4 of an inch, and that also makes a very nice tincture. And you can do a fresh tincture too with the fresh root. I would do about a 1:3 or a 1:4. You could put it in 50% pure grain alcohol, or you could increase that to 100% pure grain alcohol, depending on how potent and strong you want your tincture to be. And then you just put it all in a jar. You put your liquid in on top of it and you shake it very well for about 30 seconds. Then you want to label it with what you did and the date and put it in a cool place, a cool, dark place. You want to shake it every day for 6 weeks, and then at the end of the 6 weeks, you press it out very well and strain it through a coffee filter. Okay, then you want to bottle it and label it. And your adult dosage is going to be 1 dropper full 1 to 3 times daily. Now, a dropper full is when you squeeze the top of the dropper, put it down in your liquid, and let it go. Whatever comes up into the dropper is a dropper full. And it comes out to about 1/4 of a teaspoon. So if you don't have a dropper, just use about 1/4 of a teaspoon. You don't want to take this directly with herbs containing alkaloids. And the reason for that is because the high tannins in Cranesbill can deactivate your alkaloids. It's not dangerous or anything. It won't hurt you. But, you don't want to lose the alkaloids in your other herb. That's why we don't mix Cranesbill with berberine. That's why we alternate and leave a good half an hour to an hour between taking them. It's because we don't want the tannins in our Cranesbill to deactivate the constituents, the medicines in the berberine. It is safe for children. We have used this with my 3-year-old granddaughter for preventing stomach viruses and actually treating stomach viruses. So now, like other herbs, it has not been studied in pregnancy or breastfeeding. You'll have to use your own judgment with that. Cranesbill as an herb is considered safe. So, but do your own research and make your own decision involving pregnancy or breastfeeding. And that ends our video on Cranesbill. I hope it was helpful. Thank you for watching it. Don't forget to like and share and subscribe. If you have any questions, just put them in the comment section. Thank you and God bless you.